Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. For those that are new, my name is Nelly. God is always speaking to us to give us direction, but most of the time we're not listening. We're not hearing Him speak. Today's video is about ways that you can hear God speak to you. One of the ways that God will speak to you is that audible voice. Not everyone is able to hear that voice. So don't try hard and think that's the only way. It's not the only way. Remember how someone had this voice. He wasn't too sure where this voice was coming from because he didn't even know it was from God. When you have no idea how God speaks, you won't be able to even recognize that that was God speaking to you. But how can you be able to recognize? You'll be able to recognize Him through the Holy Spirit. Your spirit would be able to know that this is God speaking through that small, gentle voice. You will know it because of the peace that you will have in you. I'm sure you'll notice when you're driving, you hear a voice that says 10 left, and maybe you follow that voice. Later, you realize that the road that you're supposed to take, there's a huge accident, which you could have been involved in that accident. But because you listened to that voice, that inner voice in you, by you taking that other route, you were saved from that accident. And that voice was very clear. And you know that that wasn't your voice because God says, my sheep will be able to recognize my voice. But our hearts, they hear so many voices. And your heart is battling between your voice, the devil's voice, and God's voice. If you are not able to silence those voices, you won't be able to hear God speaking to you. For you to be able to hear God's voice, you need to know Him. That is why He says, my sheep will be able to listen to my voice, and they will be able to follow me as well. Because those people that hear God are those that belong to Him. The next way you can hear God is through the Bible. As it says in John 1 verse 1, when you are serious that you want to hear God and you want to hear Him speak, you need to take up that Bible and read it. God speaks to us in different ways. That is why sometimes when God is giving you a verse, He may give your friend or somebody else next to you the same verse. You both understand it in different ways. We will connect with you through the Bible, especially if you're engaging in it. This is when you're reading the Bible and suddenly these words pop up and you'll be able to understand exactly what God is telling you. Sometimes we read the Bible and we don't even understand what it means. But when those words pop up, you'll be able to know what God is saying to you. Sometimes you would have read this verse so many times, but just this one day says something to you. And at times God speaks to us in dreams and visions. The foundation and understanding was through prophetic dreams in the Bible. We learned that in Job 33 verse 14 to 18 that God can speak to us through dreams while we're sleeping. The reason why He speaks to us at times through dreams is because He wants to warn us about something. You see Matthew 2 verse 13 when King Herod wanted to kill baby Jesus. Sometimes He speaks to us through dreams to guide us about the future. Every person has got their own way God speaks to them. So that is why it's very important sometimes to pay attention to how God speaks to you. Sometimes God will speak to us through people's confirmation. Let's say you've been praying over something and somebody gives you a word from God. That is a way that God can confirm to you on what you were praying for. So He will send somebody that you don't even know, somebody that won't even know what you were praying for. Your spirit will clearly know that that was God speaking. Sometimes when one or two or more people say one and the same thing to you, that is also God confirming to you. Then you should know that was God speaking to you. At times, God speaks to us through nature and seasons. Yes, you may be asking, how does God speak to us through nature and seasons? Remember how God said He will bring the rain as a sign to us, as a sign to remind us that He will no longer destroy the world through rain. That is a sign. The rainbow is a sign. And you'll notice even the different seasons and the changes of seasons. God will always show us through the different seasons. That is always there with us. Look at the time when it's spring. All the beautiful flowers are blooming. You think that is just a coincidence? No, it's God reminding you that He's there. He's reminding us that He will, whatever He's promised us, it will always be there. Every winter you'll know that this is a season of winter. And the stars are always shining on us. Sometimes He will show us through signs. Remember the servant of Abraham? He asked God for a sign, for that woman that will come and offer him water for himself and his camels. That would be the sign, that would be the bride for Joseph. This is a tricky one. So don't start praying to God to give you a sign that if any man walks into the door wearing a blue shirt, that's the one. What if 2 or 3 men walk into that same door? What are you going to do? You will know this is God because you will hear him when he speaks to you, in whatever way that he speaks to you. He used the bush to speak to Moses. He can use something else to speak to you, like he directed the 3 wise men with that star. So God has got so many ways that he can speak to you. You need to find out how he speaks to you. Another way that God will speak to you is through prophecy. A lot of people always looking for prophecy as a way that God speaks to them. That is so common in today's world. God will give you a word through prophecy, but you also need to test the spirit. You also need to pray about it as well once you receive that prophecy and ask God to direct you. You need to confirm that prophetic word through the spirit of discernment and the Holy Spirit. The problem is these days we misuse it. We want prophecy all the time. Sometimes that prophetic word cannot be from God, but from the evil spirit. And you are getting a prophetic word from a person that is operating from a different spirit, that is not from God. They will give you an accurate word of knowledge from a satanic power, and it will be on point. That is why God says, taste the spirit. Sometimes God speaks to us through the Holy Spirit, which is your conscience. This is the most important voice that you can hear, through the Holy Spirit. God said when he left, he will leave us with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the one that is going to be there to direct us in everything that we do. You know, the Holy Spirit has a voice. The Bible even tells us that the Holy Spirit speaks to us directly through our spirit, body, and soul. Sometimes God speaks to us through social media. He can use that social media platform to speak to you. This could be something that you are listening to, and it speaks to you. And it speaks directly to you. Or maybe you've been praying to God about something, and suddenly you open this page and it speaks directly to you. He uses social media for healing, deliverance, or even to get to know him. He uses the very same social media to speak to a lot of people across many nations and across the world. Your spirit will tell you through that small, still voice. Sometimes God speaks to us through circumstances and coincidence. Most often this happens when it's unplanned. You may decide to go somewhere because your spirit is telling you to go to that particular place. Maybe it's something that you didn't even plan for it. And that place, you'll get to meet that very person that becomes your future kingdom spouse. Sometimes circumstances can force us to be in a place where we get to know God. Maybe you have a car puncture. You're so annoyed that now you're going to be delayed. And you don't realize why God allowed that puncture to happen. Maybe it was preventing you from something that was going to happen ahead and you don't know. And here you are, you start complaining. I know a friend of mine who once told me the story that when he was young, he used to take a bus home. One day he took a bus home and it was the first bus that left for his village. On their way they had a puncture. It turns out the guy didn't have even a spare wheel to change the tire of the bus. So they had to wait for another bus in order to get a spare tire. 2 buses passed by, the buses that left a little bit later. Everyone was just complaining. They managed to get the tire fixed and they left. Later they heard that all the buses that passed them were all attacked by armed robbers. So can you imagine how God can protect you? And here you are complaining. Instead of complaining, just thank God from saving you from something that might have happened. That is why God uses his circumstances. And at times he uses the seasons as well. When God puts you in a season, he's putting you in that season for a reason. He's putting you this season maybe to nature, or maybe grow a bit, or maybe prune yourself with regards to something. You may be asking God for something and God is saying, I can't give you this particular thing that you're asking for until you prune such certain things in your life. Sometimes God uses angels as well to speak to us. Not a lot of people have seen angels, but some people have seen angels before. In some ways, angels are a communication medium between heaven and earth, which God designed for our benefit. This is a communication medium which has been ignored by mankind because we haven't seen angels in our naked eyes. Yet they are always around us. Everyone is assigned an angel. God communicates via angels, and we all know that that hasn't changed. Some people have seen people and had encounter with angels without even realizing it. God's presence is always there. It's just that you are not seeing it. Because you are looking for God on a Sunday morning when you go to church. You need to have time for God in order for you to hear Him. Be committed to Him and expect to hear Him. So ask Him to speak to you in order for you to be able to hear Him speak to you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. God bless you.